Good morning. It's Peter Tilden at 10, hour 2. And the judge in the Brock Turner case, the guy from Stanford who raped the girl behind the dumpster, who was out, completely out, and was captured by two guys on bikes who saw it. Big stuff all over the internet where they're trying to get him. He was just, by the way, he was just got retained. He won the election on Tuesday because he was running unchallenged. But more than 650,000 people have signed a Change.org petition calling for the judge's ouster. Supposedly, he was a very good judge, has nothing in his record to indicate that he's done anything wrong before this. But I understand the process of recalling a judge, especially in California, is really complex. I wanted to find out what that's about. So on with us now, Brian Claypool, of course, attorney, litigation and civil rights law, represented clients in the Miramonte Elementary School molestation case and many others. And good morning, Brian. How are you?
Good, Peter. Great to be back with you.
Always good talking to you. So what's your take on this case? And by the way, I should give you the update. If people don't know, the former Stanford University swimmer, whose 6-month sentence for sexually assaulting an unconscious woman led to this outrage, will leave jail 2 months early. The online inmate records show the 20-year-old Brock Turner is expected to be released on September 2nd. He was booked June 2nd, and that's because inmates serve about 50% of their sentences if they can keep a clean disciplinary record. So your take on the whole thing, I'm dying to hear it.
Well, this judge is absolutely pathetic and spineless. It's obvious to me that he placed the pristine image of Stanford University, by which he's an alumni, by the way, and so is the dad of the perpetrator, above safeguarding women from sexual abuse. That's the bottom line. And here's the problem. There are two major problems I have with what he did. The first thing that he did that is flat out irresponsible is he said in his ruling, Peter, that alcohol consumption is a mitigating factor in giving a sentence to this perpetrator. Think about that for a second. That sends a message to every man across the country that you can go out and drink, go out and get tanked, and go sexually assault a female, and then you can use I was stoned as a mitigating factor to lessen your sentence.
Wow.
That is preposterous, don't you think?
100%, because anybody can use that. I shot him, but I was drunk.
Right.
I raped her, but I was drunk.
Yeah.
I ran him over, but I was drunk.
Yeah, that's a great point. I was just going to say that. What's next? You go out to a bar, you get tanked, you get in your car, you're driving along 80 miles an hour in a 40-mile-an-hour zone, and you run over a little old lady and kill her. Oh,
mitigating factor.
We'll give you 6 months because you were drinking, and that's a mitigating factor.
That's pretty stunning.
It's outrageous, dude. I'm telling you. And here's another problem I have with this judge. When you, in California, the sentencing guidelines require a judge to consider both aggravating factors and mitigating factors. He failed to consider several aggravating factors. I just saw this morning on Good Morning America, this kid Brock had previously been smoking weed, getting drunk at a prior fraternity party, had done acid. I don't know if you heard about that.
Yeah, we said that. Yes, he claimed. By the way, he wrote the judge a letter, and it goes on. It's worse than that, if I may. This guy said that there was a party culture and risk-taking behavior.
Yeah.
He in the letter that he wrote to the judge, he said the party culture and risk-taking behavior that I briefly experienced in my 4 months at school. Basically, not only is he saying that alcohol is a mitigating factor, but the school's a mitigating factor because they party, and I had to go along with it on the swim team, and that's what they do, and oh, woe is me. I've never seen anything like this.
Well, I mean, what he's doing is what he's done, what his dad did, and what the judge did. The common thread among those three folks is they failed to recognize the psychological trauma and impact on the victim. Not one of the three that I just mentioned ever mentioned what is the impact on this young lady. All they were focusing on is, Stanford has endorsed a party scene. Oh, this kid's life is ruined. They're not focusing on the victim, Peter. That's another aggravating factor that this judge did not take into account. I saw this morning, do you know that this young woman in her 12-page letter, she stated that she woke up on a gurney, Peter, with her elbows and knees bloodied, and she doesn't even know what happened. I mean, And you know I've represented a lot of females sexually assaulted. This is a lifelong trauma. It's triggered at various points in their lives. Their view of sex and their sexuality is interfered forever in their brain. This judge didn't consider that. And let's go back to your other point about Stanford. Shame on Stanford, because they now might be facing, I'm not saying it'll happen, but they might possibly be facing a civil lawsuit because of their awareness or their duty to know about this party scene in this fraternity house, and they didn't do anything about it.
Well, yeah, he's blaming. The headline today is former Stanford swimmer blames party culture and risk-taking behavior. And back to the weed thing, I don't have it in front of me, but I think in the letter that he wrote to Judge, he also said that he hadn't consumed alcohol before or done anything, and the college really co-opted him to that life. And then they found video and they found references where he did a bong hit. They were showing him doing bong hits, drinking, doing acid, etc. So he lied to the judge in the letter to the judge.
Yeah, no, and you're right. And what he was saying, he's using what we call the small town defense. Okay, he said, "Hey, I'm a kid from a small town in Ohio.
Yeah, shucks.
I never drank a beer before I went to Stanford. Now I'm at Stanford. All the swimmers are drinking, they're womanizing, and I got sucked into that."
As you say, it's so funny, Brian. You're in court all the time. I never, thank goodness, I never am, because it would be bad if I was. But as I'm hearing you say that, for a second, I became the judge sitting there hearing you say that, and where I went immediately, just instinctively, was, shut up, I don't need to hear any of that. What you did was so heinous. The party culture, the drinking has nothing to do with what you did, accept responsibility. Nobody's saying anything about he's lacking the fact that he won't accept responsibility.
No, it's enabling, Peter. And in fact, I did a hit on National Fox 2 days ago when this story broke on America's Newsroom, Martha McCallum.
Yep.
And here's what I said to this exact point that you're talking about. I said, quote, "My father was a decorated war hero. 3 wars he fought in. He's buried at Arlington National Cemetery, was a major in the Army. And trust me, Peter, if I had done this to a young woman anywhere in this country, he would have looked me in the face and said, 'Get out of my face and go face the consequences because you're irresponsible.'" That's what he would have said to me, not with this father saying, "Oh, my son can't go out and have a steak dinner anymore." How ironic is that?
Yeah, it's going to be horrible.
A dumpster like a piece of meat, and he's complaining about not being able to have a piece of meat.
Well, again, now you know how he was raised. It is pretty shocking. As you're saying that, my dad, I remember my dad had a speech with me when I turned 18. He said, "You're an adult now. If you get into trouble, don't call me because you're an adult. It's your responsibility. So think before you do something stupid because you're going to have to pay for your actions." That was and it scared me forever. I went, "You're on your own. You got responsibility." This dad's writing letters saying that my poor victim son.
Yeah. Yeah, and the judge is endorsing it too. He's not saying a word about the victim either.
So what is the
judge in this case is an enabler as well. This judge ought to resign.
So what is the chance that that's going to happen? I mean, he just won re-election because nobody ran against him, but the process in California is really tough, correct?
Yeah, I honestly don't know the exact process for that. I know it's very hard to remove an elected official, but I'll tell you this: over and above that, Peter, I think the writing's on the wall. This judge has to resign, and I'm going to predict right now on your show within the next 30 days, this judge is going to resign because if we can't get him recalled through an onerous process in California, then people can continue to put on the public pressure by you doing a show and a segment on this, by National Fox covering all the media covering this. We can use the media to put pressure on this judge to step aside because he violated the sanctity of being a judge. This is the old boys club, Stanford grad. Let's slap this kid on the wrist. That's not being a judge.
Well, and what would be interesting, Brian, is if you have the next rape trial in front of this judge, and it's with somebody who didn't go to Stanford, and it's a similar situation, or not even as heinous, and then the judge sits and looks at you, and I'm giving your client 3 years, and you go, "Hold on, Judge, you established a precedent for this. You had a Stanford kid who you sent away for 6 months and got on 2. How are you sending mine away for, what's the sentencing guideline on that? How are you doing it?"
That is a fantastic point. That's why he needs to resign. Great point. You're right. What happens when the next kid gets convicted of 4 felony sexual assaults, and he gets a 4-year sentence? He could face up to 16 years and gets 4 years. His lawyer's going to get up and scream and say, "Wait a minute, you gave Brock Turner 6 months, of which he's only going to serve 2 months.
Yeah, I'd be.
Exactly.
You know what? I would be if I had rape clients. I'd be lining up outside the court right now, going, "Let's go to the easy rape judge." You know, it's like, and let's say, and everybody, when you go in there, don't forget to tell them how much you were drinking, because we want to use the drinking defense.
Yeah.
Let's line up in his courthouse. Pick a number. I'd rather go to him than anybody else because he's the easy rape judge.
Yeah, no, exactly. And did you hear the comment? The victim. By the way, just for your audience, it's very rare in sexual assault cases for a female victim to speak up the way she did. She set a new precedent. This is fantastic, raising awareness. But what she said to that judge, what she said was that she was talking about the fact that if this was not a white privileged athlete at Stanford University, if this was some middle class dude at a community college, that guy would have gotten 12 years.
Well, we can talk about that, too, because the flip side of that, and I talk about this, is it's insane that these colleges, instead of calling the police and litigating stuff, they try and handle it themselves, which is insane. Totally insane. I've heard nightmare stories on the other side of this, of accusations, et cetera, and people's reputations and lives ruined. At least they did the right thing in calling the cops and having this follow report and doing all of that.
Another good point. Here, this is no different than Miramonte and other big billion-dollar school districts, let alone universities. They try to handle it internally. They try to spin it. They try to put it under the carpet because at the end of the day, don't let anybody fool your audience. This is big business. Stanford is a big business. LAUSD is a big business. They want to preserve their pristine image over and above safeguarding kids. Let me share one more quick thought.
Sure.
I got an email, ironically, last night from a civil rights advocate. She had requested a year ago, I could send your show the information, a study done by the National Department of Education. Not a study. It's statistics that they have that most people don't have in their hands. And it requested current, open, pending, serious sexual assault investigations on campuses nationwide.
Right.
I'll send it to you. Do you know how many? There are 183 campuses nationwide, Peter, currently having investigations conducted on serious sexual assault involving nearly 300 female victims. Now, you tell me that there is not an epidemic and a problem across this country, not only at Stanford, but by this behavior of the judge, by the behavior of Stanford.
And by the way, I don't know about you.
The problem.
I hear it, Brian, because I got a 20-year-old at college campuses now, and I hear the stories, and my hair stands up because it's not isolated. Yeah. Every kid knows about this stuff on college campuses. Let's move on before we go, because I only got you for another minute.
Yeah, no
I want to ask you about the other judge, the California judge who had sex with the intern and the attorney in his chambers.
Yeah,
and he was. And by the way, the great thing about that, not the great thing about it, but he ran on a platform. His camp features a young photo, shaking hands with Ronald Reagan, and his campaign was all about family, which cracks me up. And yet he got elected again. What's that about?
Well, let me tell you. I thought about this. Here's the problem with electing judges and holding judges accountable. When I went in, Peter, to vote on Tuesday, right? I got a list. I was voting on like 3 sets of judges.
Right.
I honestly knew nothing about any of the judges I was picking. I was picking a female judge. Because of what we're talking about, because we need more women maybe as judges to be more sensitive to the plight of sexual assault victims. My point is this. We need to have more civil rights advocacy groups. There's got to be some nonprofits out there nationwide that are monitoring the conduct of judges so that they can then funnel or channel that information to us and vet it.
You know, it's funny, too, that you say that. If you read about how judges argue to get that one line on there, they'll exaggerate their history and call themselves gang litigators when they're not. They really push the envelope because they know that you go in there. Most people go in there and go, oh, my aunt has that same last name, and that's how you vote for a judge, which is frightening. Zero information, and here you are, litigator, and you don't know any of these judges.
I don't even know. I know. I hate to admit it. I don't even know. But here's another thing. Shame on the state judicial administration in California. They are pathetic as well for not removing this judge. What did they do? They scolded him. They call it, Peter, a censor, right?
Yep.
What does that mean?
Yep.
What do you and I know what that means? I don't even know what that means. All I know is this. He got reelected, and he's back in there. And he had a sex with an intern as well, not just a female lawyer. So it's a sex fest in the chambers of a Superior Court judge in Orange County. You know, hallelujah, great. What a judicial system we have. And, you know, I got reported. Let me share one more quick story.
Yeah.
I'm lead counsel for Dahlia DiPolito in West Palm Beach, Florida, that case where she was convicted of conspiring to kill her husband, and then I got hired on the appeal. We won an appeal. Now we're going back to trial, right?
Yep.
So trip out on this. I make a comment to Good Morning America 3 months ago about how I believe the charges should be dismissed based on entrapment, right? I make one comment. I won't tell you the whole comment to waste your time, but make one comment. And guess what? I get ordered by a judge to fly all the way back from California to go meet the judge face to face because he wants to disbar me in Florida because I made a comment that undermines the sanctity of a criminal proceeding. Can you believe that?
Well, you should have had sex with an intern. You had an opportunity.
Yeah, right, that's great. Right, I should just have sex with the judge's clerk.
Exactly, no problem. Exactly. It really is insane. And I got more to this story. And Brian, you always give us good insight. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the judge. You made the prediction he's going to step down when? Like 30 days?
Oh, within 30 days, this guy's going to.
I don't know how
he's going to resign.
How do you sit on that bench? How do you continue hearing rape cases at this point?
He's done.
His first non-Stanford rape case is going to be the biggest problem he's ever handled. So, Brian Claypool, it's ClaypoolLawFirm.com. His Twitter is at Brian_Claypool. And I know you're exhausted, and I know you work all day, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come on.
Bet.
Always
Thanks
look forward. Yeah, for sure.